Greetings, family. Peace, love, and positive thinking. This is Guru, and thanks for visiting my channel. This vlog is about police brutality once again. Proves Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick were right. Inaction in the face of injustice is siding with the oppressor. This is why we need movements like Black Lives Matter. This is why we all need to take a stand, or sometimes take a knee. Alton Sterling was shot and killed at nearly point-blank range by police officers that had pinned him to the ground. He posed no threat. Philando Castile was stopped for a broken brake light, a traffic violation, and ended up murdered. He was shot and killed after letting the officer know he was carrying a firearm he had a license to carry as he was reaching for his ID. Terrence Crutcher, 40, a father of four, was laid to rest yesterday, Saturday, September 24th, 2016. Was approaching his SUV slowly with his arms raised when his life was taken. The incident was captured on dash cam footage as well as a police helicopter who, by the way, the racist in the police helicopter stated he was a bad guy. And this racist didn't even know who Terrence Crutcher was at the time he made the statement. It was just a stereotypical racist statement he made about a black man. Keith Lamont Scott, 43, was surrounded by officers with his wife watching and taping as she pleaded for Scott's life. But yet they murdered him down in the streets as well. And then we saw from video footage that there was a gun that was supposedly a gun that was in the picture, but later found out that that too was planted because in the video footage there is no gun. There is no gun. Some of these names are fresh, while others you may remember vaguely. A single death is a tragedy. 1,000 deaths is a statistic. More than 500 lives have been taken by police in the past 6 months, and more than 1,200 in the year before. And the reaction from many Americans is to either turn a blind eye to the problem or to deny there is a problem, and instinctively come to the defense of the police. By now, movements like Black Lives Matter and athletes like Kaepernick are forcing the rest of us to confront and question those responses. Even though the single biggest issue in the face of these movements is that it usually directs the conversation to whether we should have this conversation. I'm here to talk about the real problem. I'm here to try to tell you what these movements aim to show you. Use of excessive force has become commonplace among police, and all communities are affected by this violence, but the ones affected disproportionately more are communities of color, especially when you think about the death of unarmed citizens in the hands of police. Then the target is overwhelmingly unarmed black people at a rate of 5 times higher than white people, but yet they'll tell you the opposite. Or when you think about the rate of youth being targeted, because in America, a black teenager is 21 times more likely to be shot and killed by the police than a white teenager. I wonder why. And you see, even after reading those statistics, those numbers, white people will sit here and tell you, they'll try to say that they get killed more. Even when you hear that a black teenager is 21 times more likely to be shot and killed by the police than a white teenager. And they'll turn around and try to make it seem like it's the opposite way. This is why I question whether we're dealing with people with high IQs as they always try to claim. I highly doubt that we're dealing with people with high IQs. And so the quote goes, as long as the color of your skin is seen as a threat, you will never be seen as unarmed. Let me read that one more time. As long as the color of your skin is seen as a threat, you will never be seen as unarmed. There's another quote that I want to leave you with here too as well. It says, the new racism is to deny that racism exists. Isn't that the truth? But I digress. Let's get back to this. And you may think that things are looking up. Technically, 2015 represented a turning point where more police officers were charged for deadly on-duty shootings than any year in the past decade. However, that number unfortunately was 12. 12 instances where an officer was charged. Out of more than 1,200 killings, only 12 were charged, and only 2 out of the 12 were charged with second-degree murder. And as we know, this officer with Betty Jo Shelby, she's being charged with first-degree manslaughter. And like I said, that's just a charge. She's just being charged. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It's not murder. They didn't charge her with first-degree murder because they have a hard time charging white people killing black people with first-degree murder. They have a hard time doing that. We live in a racist country. They don't want to admit it, but speaking of the facts reveal that this is a racist country, and they don't want to be held accountable for killing people of color. Their racism wants to protect them of that. Their racism wants to protect them of injustices. That's what racism does. Yes, that's what white supremacy does. White supremacy / racism. So, looking for solutions, finding reasons. So, what are some of the solutions for this problem? A quick answer is better training. That's bullshit. I did a vlog on retired police captain by the name of Ray Lewis. He speaks about this issue. If you haven't checked out that vlog, I advise you or ask or suggest that you take a moment and check out that vlog, because in there he mentions some of the solutions that we should be trying to come up with. So again, if you haven't seen that vlog, then I'm just asking if you could take a minute to look at that vlog. He lists a few things as solutions of what we can do, because this protesting, and whatnot is counterproductive. And that's a point that he made also in that vlog. Again, just take a moment to check it out. But also, Cheryl Underwood, she spoke very eloquently, I might add, passionately about the need for better training. They don't need better training. They don't need training not to kill white people. Why do they need training not to kill us? That is such BS, and it's a scapegoat. We're tired of those scapegoat answers. That's BS. If you don't need training not to kill white people, you have a racism problem. You have a white supremacist problem. You need to fix that. Look in the mirror, fix that problem. Stop deflecting and trying to point your fingers at everything else. It's not everything else. It's you people. Now, as far as the black police officers, there are some black police officers who are black skin, but just like David Clark, they are whitewashed. And when we say that, we mean that they're black, but they have a white mindset. So they're not even considered black. The black community, we reject them. We don't want them. You can have them. So we're not even talking about the black police officers, because we know a lot of them are whitewashed. There's a few, like the young officer, the light-skinned officer, and I forget her name right now, but she spoke out against her fellow man and woman in blue. And even then, she got reprimanded by the people that she was trying to talk to, that she was wearing the same uniform as them. You guys remember that story has been so brushed under the rug because she was right, and they don't want to even touch on that subject again. They don't want to revisit that again at all. You notice they never talk about her anymore. So, a quick answer is better training, which, like I said, is BS. Subconscious biases that form on the job or in personal lives lead to a lot of officers developing negative attitudes towards people of color. And there are plenty of studies that back this up. Even in computer training simulations, police tend to shoot black suspects much quicker. So part of the solution is addressing these inherent biases and trying to train police to handle these instances in a less violent way. And another problem is accountability. Oh yes. And again, like I mentioned this other video to you guys, Ray Lewis, retired police captain of Philadelphia, he talks about that. A major problem is accountability because they don't ever want to be held accountable. So why would police be held accountable when the law protects them? Question mark. If use of excessive force is justifiable whenever an officer perceives a threat, then what prevents police from gunning down a person without a second thought? Good question. Folks, we need to think about these questions. In the Tennessee versus Garner and Graham versus Connor decisions, the Supreme Court ruled that it is reasonable for police to use deadly force to protect one's own life or the lives of other innocents, and when the suspect is fleeing and could possibly pose a threat to others if escaped. The problem this precedent sets is that it doesn't require an actual threat when force is used, merely that the officer perceives a threat to be reasonable. That's a problem, because these white racist KKK members who are wearing blue uniforms and badges, their perception is always going to be that, and they're going to always be pulling the triggers on black people, and that's what's going on. That's another thing, by the way, that white people don't want to admit, that a lot of KKK and of these hate groups, some of these members have infiltrated the police forces, the Department of Justice, and no one is, it seems, is investigating this thoroughly when we have all these shootings. That needs to be investigated thoroughly. Okay, the judicial system can't look into the officer's mind and prove that he or she didn't perceive a threat. Yep, see? So, by definition, the law gives cops carte blanche to use excessive deadly force whenever they choose, especially when you pair up this precedent with the inherent biases and discrimination of KKK members and hate members that wear police uniform and badges that I mentioned earlier. So, you tell me, is it reasonable to choke a man to death for selling cigarettes? Is it reasonable to kill a 12-year-old boy carrying a toy gun? Is it reasonable to pin a man on the ground and unload 6 bullets into him? Is it reasonable to kill a man over a broken taillight? Is it reasonable for a grown man to pepper spray a 15-year-old girl who is sitting in the back seat of a patrol vehicle? Because speaking against Black Lives Matter means arguing that these killings were in fact justified, that black lives don't matter in this country, and that these people deserved what was coming to them. Is that what you white folks are saying? Is that what you good white people are saying? I just want to know, you good Christians. Can you please speak up? Leave me a message in my comment section, please. Can you tell me? Can you please explain your arguments against Black Lives Matter? Can you please do that? There are white people all over the country who love to exercise their right to bear arms. They walk around wielding their AR-15s as a sign of patriotism. They walk into Chipotle and take over bird sanctuaries. Many of the rest of us dismiss these gun fanatics as a small subset of crazy white people. The police also don't perceive them as a threat. Really? At least not an immediate threat that demands an immediate response of potentially deadly violence. No, they don't do that. But when a black person is armed by just being a black person, the stakes are raised. As a matter of fact, the stakes are raised even when a black person isn't armed. Like I said, just for having his or her black skin. This is why movements like Black Lives Matter are important, because they take action in the face of injustice. They compel the rest of us to face our ignorance about the truth of what's going on with police and African American communities, and acknowledge that our silence equals complicity. Because inaction in the face of injustice is siding with the oppressor. Is that what white America is doing? Siding with injustice? So I urge you to try to understand these movements even if you're not black, because Black Lives Matter isn't trying to create an environment of tension. They're trying to show you the unequal treatment of minorities, because in America, black lives still matter less than other lives, even gorillas. Family, thanks a lot for viewing this vlog. Please like, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thanks a lot. This is Guru. Peace and love and positive thinking. I'm out.